All right, so we got the New Japan Cup 2025 tournament that's going to be kicking off on March 7th. So yeah, so you guys want to pull up the bracket and kind of work through each of the matches here.
Sure.
All right, so first up here we got Yota Tsuji versus Evil. Yota Tsuji, the IWGP Global Heavyweight Champion. We saw Evil returning at New Beginning in Osaka to attack one Yota Tsuji. So first big matchup here on March 7th. What do you guys think?
Tsuji, the defending champion of this tournament.
Tsuji, the top performing competitor in both men's singles heavyweight tournaments last year. This man's getting knocked out in the first round, the first big upset of this year's tournament. There's no, I know they've done plenty of teases in the past that we might eventually get a Bullet Club leader versus a Bullet Club leader and everything like that in these, especially in New Japan Cup, and it's never come to fruition. This time they're not playing games. They're gonna do Evil versus David Finlay. David Finlay's got that bye, and Tsuji's bye. He's out. This is it.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to lose, and that's going to set up a global title match, probably for Secure Genesis with Tsuji defending against Evil, getting the win back.
Yeah, and I think they split the two factions essentially. Like the House of Torture and the War Dogs are no longer aligned at all. So, and what I will say is the cool thing about the New Japan Cup is that they do typically weave in the stories that are happening in the rest of the, over the course of the rest of the calendar, even better than they do, or more obviously than they do in something like the G1, because there's a little bit more anticipation about whether or not you're going to get those payoffs. And oftentimes they actually do the payoff. So, I think we're staring right at it. It's got to be Evil and David Finlay, and I think that's a money match. And I think the other thing is that it feels like the booking is giving those matches these days. They're not just teasing them; they're actually happening. So I think that it's gonna be Evil going through, and then I think you're right. I think it sets up the perfect global match for Tsuji to hopefully get the win back.
Yeah. So Dave Finlay, he's getting the bye there. So that'll set up Dave Finlay versus Evil. Then next up, Yuya Uemura, the Heat Storm, returning from injury, going up against his former stablemate in Sonata.
Uemura's never won a New Japan Cup match. He's been in 2 tournaments, so he's 0-2. But I think he's winning here. I think he's winning here to take out Sonata and move on to take on Yoshihashi in the second round. What say you?
Yeah, I agree. I think that long term, David Finlay is still my projected finalist. I don't know if that's what's going to come to fruition when I finish my Sport Pro Wrestling block, but as of now, that's the way I see it, playing out. And they teased all throughout last year the idea that we would get a David Finlay versus Uemura rematch somewhere down the line. So I think that that's a really good opportunity to have him, get to that point in the tournament and kind of give him a nice little push, especially returning from injury.
Yeah, I'm also going with Uemura, ride that momentum of him coming back from injury. They're not really doing much with Sonata anyway. I mean, he's just kind of a lower level War Dog guy now. So I think it makes a ton of sense to capitalize. We're in the youth movement right now. Have Yuya get the win and have him go on. And so Yoshihashi has a bye, so that'll set up Uemura versus Yoshihashi. And then on the semifinals on the left side, we'll have Evil versus David Finlay.
Oh, we're going quadrant.
Yeah, I'm doing it how it pulled up on your website.
Sure. Yeah. I like that style better than going through the whole first round. I think if we can get to the final 4, I think that's good. Cool. I think Finlay beats Evil.
I agree. Just because I think that David Finlay is kind of due. Even if he's not winning the tournament, he probably needs to go deep. At this point. So,
and plus, you kind of already gave Evil something. He's being the global champion. He's gonna get a title match regardless. You don't need him to beat Finlay and go further in the tournament.
And I think House of Torture gets a big win elsewhere as we go through the first round in a different quadrant.
Yeah, but that's terrifying now that Jeremy points out, like, we're gonna get Evil versus Tsuji as a global feud.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Then next up here in the semifinals, Yuya Uemura versus Yoshihashi.
I think my boy Uemura goes through here.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a player in this thing. He's doing a lot of press. He's out there. He's looking good. He's just coming back from injury. I think he was primed to make a run towards the tail end of the G1 before he got hurt. I think he was going to make it into the knockout stage. He was going to just squeak in. So I think they want to get behind him, and New Japan Cup's a perfect chance to do that, especially given that they gave him an actual first round match instead of giving him a bye. Because the buys were quote unquote random. So they could have done whatever they wanted with it, but I think they're trying to put him in front of people. So yeah, I think he beats Yoshihashi pretty easily here.
If you're supposed to convince me that Yoshihashi goes from losing to Oiwa to beating Uemura, come on, bro.
Yeah, I think
it's not happening.
Yeah,
Uemura all day. So then that will take us to the finals of that side of the tournament, which would be David Finlay versus Yuya Uemura.
It's a tough one. This is the one point in this style of and we've never done it this way, but this style of prediction where you can't look at the other semifinal situations and kind of base it off that, and that's the one weakness here, because I like to do that. But putting all things aside, I am going David Finlay. I've been predicting him for a long time. I think as one of the, in New Japan, they regularly put respect on his name as, you know, one of the faction leaders. He's not a global champion this time around, so I think he sort of needs to have that deep entry into the tournament, especially if he's beating Evil. Plus, like, he already lost to Uemura in the G1 last year. He sort of needs to get that win back.
They are the Finlay and Uemura are the top two vote getters to make it to this particular semifinal. But Finlay's got 58% of the votes, or, you know, predictions, and Uemura's got 21% of the predictions. So the people think David Finlay goes through. I think Uemura gets the win here.
Wow. Upset alert.
I mean, you guys know. You know better than anyone. Me and my heart and Yuya Uemura, they are one. And if I can convince myself that this man is at least going to the semis, if not the finals, then I'm gonna take that convincing. I think Finlay's gonna have enough to do. You know, I think the winner of that match, assuming that match is the match that happens, is the winner of the tournament. Spoiler alert. That's where I'm headed here.
Yeah, that's a great point you brought up. That, yeah, Finlay is going to kind of probably be involved in the whole, you know, Bull Club Civil War finally happening between House of Torture and the War Dogs. So, yeah, if he doesn't win, you could definitely have him. He has a made story to do. But I don't know. I just feel like based off of what happened last year, you know, he was supposed to get to the finals. It was a rumor he was supposed to win. I feel like this might be the make good for him. Even if he doesn't win the tournament, I think getting him to the finals is...
But that's the other thing about that, is that Finlay's I mean, he already has a stake or a claim at Goto, right? Because Goto essentially took over for him in the New Japan Cup last year. And there's some nice full circle. It would be a nice full circle moment for Finlay to then go win the New Japan Cup, but I don't think Goto's losing the Sakura Genesis defense. And I think if Finlay is the winner of the tournament, he's winning the title. So that's sort of, I'm kind of working backwards from the Ryogoku defense. And Finlay could just step up at some point and be like, you know, you're in my spot. You're where I should be. You took my moment. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Very heelish, but it's exactly what he can do. He doesn't need to win this tournament to do that. But all that said, you know, he's the betting man's favorite. But I think he gets knocked out here with Uemura. He'll get bundled up with the House of Torture War Dogs thing for a little while, and eventually he's just going to show up and, do a little beat down on Goto and maybe win the title at something like Dominion if that's the direction that they're going. But, as we go through I think what the next quadrant will be, I mean, he's got someone hot on his tail in his own unit. So, there is a part of me that thinks if they don't go with David Finlay now, they're never going to go with him, which means they might go with him. But either way, my official pick, Yuya Uemura, goes through to the tournament semifinals, the Final Four.
I left, and I thought you guys had moved on without me.
No. I went on one of my things. I mean, I love that man. I was very excited to see him back, and I'm very excited to see him, finally get some New Japan Cup wins under his belt.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the bottom left quadrant here. So in the quarterfinals, we're going to have Rei Oiwa, the Grip, taking on a returning Chase Owens.
On the one hand, I do think Oiwa needs to win because he is domestic, and the next round is 2 other white guys. I mean, we can't just have the one domestic star get knocked out and have 3 white guys in play after that. Like, that's not going to work out. But why the fuck did they fly out Chase Owens in the first place? It makes you a little nervous because you're like,
because there's a job to be done.
He's your classic first rounder.
We didn't need to pay him and for his flight to get him out here to do that. There's plenty of people on the roster could have laid down their shoulders for 1, 2, 3.
You think they get paid? You think Chase gets paid? I mean, with all the Bullet Club stuff going on, you got to figure he might factor into something. He is officially, he is the last remaining classic Bullet Club member that has no other weird Bullet Club affiliation. He's the last guy standing. He's going to come out with his little Bullet Club t-shirt on, and he's going to fire his little finger gun towards the screen, and they're going to make little sound effects for him, and he's going to lose to Rei Oiwa. Or he's going to somehow, I don't know, he's going to corner Fale, or those dudes are going to, run some debauchery. I don't know.
Remember when Road Dogg was the final DX member?
I don't.
Vaguely.
That's what this is.
Yeah, I think Oiwa needs to get the win here. Again, we're in the youth movement. I think the real reason Chase is probably here, you're probably going to get Chase and Fale probably challenging for the tag titles, probably at Secure Genesis. But I think that, Oiwa needs to get the win here and kind of move on, especially I think the next round matchup, it will make a lot more sense for Oiwa to win, which would be, Zack Sabre Jr. So Zack Sabre Jr. is getting a bye, probably the only bye that makes sense in this tournament. And so I think that's a very great matchup that people really want to see and get invested in.
That'll be fun. So let's hope.
Then after that, we'll have the Madman, Gabe Kidd, the NJPW strong openweight champion, taking on sold out Ren Narita. So this is perfect to play off of the whole Bullet Club Civil War, how the Torture being down Gabe Kidd at the end of New Beginning in Osaka.
It's not impossible that Narita, beats him. There's always upsets in this tournament and that sort of thing, but it does feel a little early to get a guy that's sort of rising as a star right now as Gabe Kidd just completely eradicated out of this tournament in favor of Narita. I'd be a little surprised if they did it, honestly.
Ren Narita's winning this match.
You think so?
Oh, wow.
I do. Yeah.
I don't know.
So. I think the story with Gabe is that he can't get a win. He can't get a win. When's the last time Gabe Kidd won a match in New Japan?
Well, I was going to say, beat the Butcher's ass.
I said in New Japan.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you have
in
New
Japan. His last win was Callum Newman in the G1.
Well, bro, you changed that the last second. Said in New Japan,
So either way, in New Japan, he beat Oiwa in December. I mean, we're talking 3-4 months ago now. I think the story with Gabe Kidd is that he can't get a win. So he's got the draw with Ishii, the double knockout with Tsuji. He lost to Omega. he's on the rise, but he can't seem to get a win especially in Japan. Otherwise he had the double count out with Goto. He lost to Goto. There's you have to go pretty far back to find Gabe Kidd's last win, on a domestic New Japan show. And even so, even non-domestic, you have to go pretty far back to find his last win. And they were against Oiwa and Fujita. So those are not big names. So I think Narita's winning this match, and Gabe Kidd will continue to hunt for a win in Japan.
Not that I don't disagree with you, Chris, but did you notice how he said that the last win was in December, and then he said 3 or 4 months? He started rounding up to prove his point a little bit further.
It's 3 months. By the time this match happens, it'll be 3 months.
You raise it up to 4,
Just not doing my math. But yeah, no, I think Narita wins this. It also establishes Finlay still the leader of the War Dogs. But I think there's something brewing with Gabe where eventually to finally win, he has to, accept his fate as the leader of Hantai.
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah, I think that's great, and it can definitely happen. I think too, also the whole faction warfare. I mean, if Gabe wins, you kind of have the War Dogs just kind of running rampant over House of Torture. However, though, I do feel it's kind of weird to knock both Tsuji and Gabe out of the tournament after the great match they have, and both people, the fans really want both guys getting over.
It's a little poetic. Now that Chris is pointing it out, I'm like, I might be sold on the idea. Those two guys, you heat them up, you cool them down. Classic Gato.
All right, so Josh, you're going Narita?
It's too late. I already put in Gabe Kidd into into my official bracket.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Gabe.
I get it. You want Gabe out there. You want Gabe doing matches, but I don't know, man. He can't seem to get.
That's not true. I actually hate him, but I'm just going with my logic.
All right.
I've heard he's a madman.
Yeah, in case you didn't know.
I've heard that he's completely changed his shtick and become a star randomly overnight with the AEW fan base. But everything he was doing several months ago just sucked. But suddenly he's awesome, right?
I don't know anything about all that.
Collision, AEW, it's getting over out here. But next quarterfinals, Taichi, he's getting a bye. So then that's going to set up in the semifinals. Oiwa versus Zack Sabre Jr.
TMDK all the way, all day. That's a very, very interesting match there. I'm tempted to pick Oiwa.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, that would be.
It would rule, but it would be crazy.
But if you really want to do something that's crazy, I don't know if we're doing Narita over Gabe Kidd, there is something, that might be the way you go to get Narita all the way through.
Well, but then you can also get to Narita Zach, and that's
there's history there.
There's some history
Narita's
there.
never going to beat Zach unless they're just going with the shallowest victories for Narita the whole way through. But I feel like if you wanted to do something that's topsy-turvy, get a surprise guy there, you have Oiwa beat Zach, you get Narita through, then you wind up with a Finlay Narita semifinal.
Interesting. There's a path there that makes sense. Or Taichi beats Narita, and we finally get Zach and Taichi.
That would fucking rule.
Yeah, could do that.
I feel like this show, I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere that I was talking to John Carroll about it. It's somewhere that's important to Taichi. It's like the place that they would run the match to. So if they were ever going to do it, I think that would happen.
All right. Without any facts or anything to prove it, Chris says that this is the location where it needs to happen. And you know what? I believe him. Fuck it. Zach's beating Oiwa, and Taichi's going to beat that ass. We're going all the way.
I'm going with it. I think I'm gonna headcanon this that that they're finally gonna do Zach and Taichi.
I mean, they've been teasing it for so long. I mean, I think, yeah, if you're gonna do it, why not here? So yeah, I'm gonna go with Zach beating Oiwa as well. There also is a story, I think, with Zach and Gabe, which is kind of the UK wrestling history there. I feel like that's another potential reason why Gabe could get through.
The only problem is I put Gabe through, and I cannot see Taichi beating Gabe.
It's the March 15th show, which would be that match, is in Aichi, which is Taichi's land. So
I can see Gabe easily, or Taichi could easily beat Narita, but seeing him beat Gabe after Gabe just beat Narita, that's a tough one.
Taichi's not beating Gabe. He can beat Narita, though.
Yeah, Rambo said that they don't. I am suing this podcast for emotional damages for getting my hopes up again.
That's fine.
We have no lawyers. We will represent ourselves.
There's not much money you're gonna get, pal. Yeah, so I also have Gabe Kid and Taichi. I'm gonna go with Gabe because I want the Zach Gabe Kid match.
Oh, you want Zach and Gabe?
Yeah.
I think Zach and Gabe does make sense because of what happened in the G1 this past year, and that's sort of the way I see it happening. But it I don't know, man.
It feels very chalk.
It's so chalk that it feels anti New Japan Cup.
But I like it.
I do too.
I would like that as much, almost as much as Zach Taichi.
Here's the problem: is if I'm hypothetically booking David Finlay to go through, do I realistically think that Gabe and Zack Sabre Jr., all three white dudes, is like the realistic projection of how they're going to do this? Like, I don't know. It seems unrealistic to me. All the same, I'm putting Gabe through, and I think we're going to get, I'm going to go the fun way and get Gabe and David Finlay to sell their differences, you know?
Gotcha. You got Gabe beating Zach. Mm-hmm. And then Chris, what do you have? You have Narita versus Zach here, right? Or you have Zach versus Taichi here.
I went with Zach Taichi, and I think Zach goes through. Because I think the first 100 brackets of this thing, my bracket challenge came through, and not a single person picked Zack Sabre Jr. to win the tournament, which feels kind of like he immediately went on ice after losing the title, which is kind of wild to me because he was kind of a hot champion and he had a lot of big spots. And then he lost the title in a great match against Goto. And
that's what happens when you work Fuego del Sol.
So I think they got to heat him up at least enough to get him into this Final Four. He's also he's a player in the New Japan Cup. I mean, the man has won the tournament a couple times. So I think you got to at least get him to the Final Four. So I think Zach beats Taichi in a classic that sells a shitload of tickets, and they finally do it. And yes, it's in the quarterfinals of the New Japan Cup, but it'll be great. So yeah, I think Zach goes through, which puts my left side semifinal Yuya Uemura versus Zack Sabre Jr.
Nice. I'm gonna go with my bracket. I'm going with Zach over Gabe Kidd, which would give me Zach and Finlay. And I don't know, for me, I feel like the left bracket's gonna be the white man bracket, and then I'm gonna have a Japanese guy come out of the right side of the bracket. And so the two top foreigner guys, they really haven't touched a whole ton lately, I don't think. And so
that you know of.
I feel like, like you said, Chris, you want to get Zach heated back up and show that he's still a top guy. And then Dave Finlay, you want to kind of cement him as a leader and top guy. So I feel like that's a great match they're going to have in that Final Four area there. Josh, what did you have in your bracket there?
Yeah, I already said I've got Gabe beating Zach in the finals. Gabe goes through. We're going to wind up with David Finlay versus Gabe and all War Dogs semifinal.
Nice.
Which is, I know it's not the most likely outcome, but there's probably a lot of people that are hearing this for the first time and being like, oh, that would be fucking crazy, because there's so much attention on the Civil War. And we kind of taken the attention off the idea of who is the real leader of War Dogs.
Should they both continue to be in the War Dogs, right? I mean, how does David Finlay feel about Gabe Kidd walking out with a lion mark on his shorts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? There's something.
So should they
there's
both
something
step
brewing
down
there.
and let Sonata take over?
I mean, the one true leader with all his charisma.
If there's anybody that understands evil and all his wiles, that's the one person that should be manning the helm.
And
Makes
where's
sense.
Jake Lee?
Where is Jake Lee?
I mean, he's hurt.
Jake Lee's gonna be fucking X against El Phantasmo.
Oh, it could be
That's
Jake Lee.
that's a good guess.
He's. I feel like I heard he was pretty far out, but that could have been workers working.
I would never
Yeah.
know.
You gotta ask questions.
To who?
I thought you had friends.
We do, but it's like you.
I thought your best friend worked in the office over there.
No. Oh, you mean Rocky? Rocky doesn't answer our
good friend.
messages.
I mean, to be fair, we don't really actually message him that often. So
Except for when it's me.
He'll pop up for episode 400, right?
yeah, we'll see. We're
See?
on like 21 episodes away.
There you go.
I gotta go listen.
Now
we gotta go back and listen to the last 3 and figure out what questions we can't ask him again.
Yeah. Well, number 1 question: why isn't Bad Dude Tito in Japan?
It's a good question.
So what's the holdup with Bad Dude Tito? That's what we really want to know.
He would laugh and answer honestly.
Yeah. Why do we still have strong titles?
So, Dave, he keeps talking about this Harold May conspiracy. What the fuck is the deal with that?
Is Carl Anderson coming in?
Why haven't you blocked Carl Anderson from coming in? That's the real question.
By that point, he'll probably already be.
He'll be in.
He will have come and gone by then.
Yeah.
So how wild was it when you recommended that Carl Anderson final the G1 and then he won?
All right, let's jump over to the top right side of the bracket here. We got the current TV champion El Phantasmo taking on Great Okan.
Great Okan gonna beat that ass.
I agree. That's why I think Phantasmo is going to retain at the anniversary. Then you have Okan beat him to get a TV title shot.
And set up a rematch with Shota Umino.
Yeah, there's too many reasons why he shouldn't win. So it's it just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Okan wins.
Umino getting the bye there. So then we got Tetsuya Naito versus the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman, returning from injury.
I started to believe that maybe we would get an all United Empire match between Newman and Jeff Cobb, and we do something kind of fun, fresh, and exciting there. But it's like, unless this is going to be a situation where we're setting up Naito and Hiromu to be challenged by Callum and some other member of United Empire, there's just no reason for him to really realistically win that match, considering who's next. I think Naito and Cobb have a lot of history. I believe that this is Cobb's swan song. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm being worked, but that's what seems to be indicated. So who better to beat him than Naito? I think Naito is going to be the guy that wins here and goes on to face Cobb.
I think Callum Newman's finally beating Naito.
Wow.
It's their third singles match. I don't know. I don't know that there's any other. I don't know there's going to be a lot of opportunity to pay that off. That like Newman and Naito have this kind of these intersecting paths. And Newman's coming back from injury, right? I've heard through the grapevine that he's bulked up, that he looks, like a heavyweight, that he's like a big dude now.
He's on the juice.
I could be totally wrong. I don't know that that's true. I haven't seen the man, but I think this is a spot. This is the upset. Like this is that first round upset that we're not expecting at all. And I think it sets up Newman to have a match with Cobb. If Cobb is leaving, you have to imagine that he wants to have a match with one of these guys that he's traveled up and down the road with for a couple times. So maybe this is their chance to do that. And, you know, Naito is right there with Tanahashi. I don't know how many singles matches he's got in him. And if anyone could carry him through one, like quite literally, it's Jeff Cobb. But I also do think that it could set up Cobb and Newman to be the tag team that goes up against Naito and Hiromu. And that's a nice mix, right? You've got a lighter guy, right? A faster guy in Newman and a big heavy with Cobb. And then you've got, Naito and Hiromu with a similar sort of size dynamic. So I think Newman wins. I think this is Newman's chance to finally beat Naito in the third singles match. And that's Newman doesn't have that many singles matches under his belt, and to, have his third one against Naito coming up, at some point you got to pay that off.
I think what you've proposed is plausible.
Sure.
And it's definitely generous, but if I was playing devil's advocate and basically throwing out the least generous version of that, it's like, I'm Cobb. I'm going to WWE. Do I want to lose?
Jeff Cobb's going to say he's leaving until he's
But I believe
gone.
he's leaving.
You've believed he's leaving the last 5 years around this time.
No,
like,
I never
everyone
have.
Everyone
this is the first time I've ever believed
everyone always thinks Cobb is leaving, and Jeff Cobb really likes it in Japan.
Well, I've never believed he was leaving, but this time I think he is leaving. And if
he's been talking about leaving for since 2021.
But this is the only time I thought it was plausible. So if, let's say he is leaving, do I want to job to Callum Newman on the way out and put over a young star, or do I want to put over a big star like Naito, who, it makes sense. He's a big star. So
you think we're getting 3 singles matches from Tetsuya Naito now?
Yep.
That's more insane than thinking Callum Newman's winning this match.
I just think it will suck, but I don't think it's insane. I just think it's something that's going to happen.
I like what Chris proposed, but for me, I'm thinking the business aspect. Like, I know if Naito loses, he'll still be on the tour on undercards, but I feel like for the drawing power of the tournament, you draw more of Naito being alive for a little bit longer.
I think everyone knows he's cooked.
So here's the thing. I think the story of this tournament, at least for this quadrant, it's all about Shota Umino. And I don't think that it's going to be a story that is just based around happenstance people that he faces. I think it's going to be all meaningful individuals that he's faced in the past. So I think Great Okan is a mountain he needs to overcome. I think Tetsuya Naito is a mountain he needs to overcome. So because I'm thinking that we're getting some sort of new wrapping around Umino, yes, I think we're going to get some shitty singles matches with Naito. But I think Naito is going to be that guy standing across the ring from Umino. That's just my personal opinion. Chris?
That's fair. That's a fair.
Right way more times than I ever.
Well, it's a fair way to work back. It's a fair way to work backwards into it. I don't think Umino, if they fire Umino into what I assume then Umino wins and goes to the semis in your bracket,
he might win the fucking tournament the way I'm talking about it now.
That's insanity, because then
I know it is.
That is so much faster than that needs to happen. Like,
I know
he shaved his head. This man should come out in black trunks and run to the ring, and he should. I mean that. Like, he should start over and lose to Great Okan again. Eventually, Great Okan becomes the white whale, and in that case, in that scenario, Tetsuya Naito has nothing to do with the rest of it. In your scenario, if that's what they're doing, if they're firing Umino back up and they're just saying like, all right, well, we tried and you failed in the Tokyo Dome, but damn it, we're gonna put you in the finals of the New Japan Cup again, and we're gonna Roman Reigns your ass down everyone's throat. Like, sure, yeah, Naito should win, but I think that sucks. And it is totally plausible. It's totally plausible. I'm giving you that.
I think
it
joking.
Sucks.
I was joking about the idea of him winning the tournament. I think there's some people listening. They're like, fuck, they might go all that way. But I do think that they have a habit of taking someone down a losing stretch, rehabbing them in this tournament, putting on
losing stretch. He lost one match and shaved his head.
Yeah, but he sucked before that. He shouldn't even been in the fucking
He's
match
gonna
to begin
keep
with.
sucking. Like
Right.
that's
but what I mean
that's
is
the problem. Is that there is
he
I have
didn't
very
deserve that
little
match
hope.
in the first place.
I have very little
Yeah.
hope for Shota Umino, and
So-
it pains me to say that what you've just put forward is totally plausible too, and I just think it sucks. So I cannot stand behind it.
Okay, I do understand that, and I sympathize with it. But what I do think is that they're going to put some. I don't think they're going to have him just show up as a young lion.
No, I mean that would be awesome.
And
but
I
they're not
don't think
gonna
they're.
do it.
I don't think they're going to do the Yuya Uemura where it's like he just shows up as Shota Umino with a shaved head.
Yeah,
They are going to put a new coat of paint on him. I don't think he's going to win the tournament.
How many?
But I do think that they're going to go a new path with him and give
How
him
much
a meaningful
paint thinner
win.
is there to get all the coats of paint off of Shota Umino? I mean, like this man, it's like the 9th refresh since he came back.
I'm assuming
he's a dud.
Right, and I agree, but I'm assuming that it's going to be like the sink that I stripped, where we take all the paint off, we put some lacquer on. So hopefully they have something planned here. I do think they have something planned. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But I think he's beaten people that he's lost to in the past.
If that match presumptively with Great Okan happens, and I see on that Jumbotron screen the Roughneck, I'm throwing my remote at the television.
Yeah, I'm kind of in alignment with Josh here. I'm thinking that I don't think Umino's going to win, but I do think they kind of start a slow redemption story with him. And yeah, getting a win over Great Okan doesn't hurt Okan because Okan's going to beat Phantasmo and move into the TV title picture. And then you have Umino, get that win back from Okan. And then, he has to face Naito again. And you're going to say I'm crazy, but I'm going to have Naito beat Umino there and have him fumble there. And then it's a continued just redemption story of Umino trying to find himself, find his footing, and having to continue to avenge losses for the rest of the year.
See, but my absolute disdain for Shota Umino is how I ended up with Great Okan going to the semifinals this is a weak quadrant of the bracket. Like it is very weak.
It is one of the weakest quadrants.
It's the weakest quadrant, I think. Bottom right's got some players in it. So yeah, it's the weakest.
I think the bottom right's gonna fucking rule though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I don't think anyone out of that bracket, save for maybe Shingo, is like a plausible winner of the tournament.
Who are you to count out CJP?
I hate everything about Shota Umino.
Well, real quick, so
yeah, we're off the rails.
So Okan Umino, Chris, you're going Okan.
God, I want to, but I think I've been convinced that I have to go Umino because the only other way. Because if I go,
we've litigated the whole entire bracket.
if I go Okan, then I'm getting another United Empire Derby, right? And I'm getting Okan and Cobb. If Cobb's leaving, maybe he's lobbying to get these singles matches with his United Empire guys. No, I know they wouldn't do it. But
it's the United Empire. They don't give a fuck about them. There's no Will Ospreay.
But they like Jeff Cobb. We know they like Jeff Cobb.
That's why they're gonna give him
Naito.
Nah, I think Cobb beats Newman. Okan beats Umino. But in this bracket, I'm sending Cobb to the semis, which is plausible. He's a tournament wrestler that they give big pushes to.
So you have
sound
Cobb
like someone on the New Japan Reddit, one of those fanboys.
What?
Going with your heart instead of your head right now.
That's what I'm doing here. I'm betting with my heart because if I bet with my head, I'm going to win my own contest again. I don't want to.
So you're doing Cobb and Newman?
I'm doing Cobb Newman because I think Newman's beating Naito, and then I'm doing Cobb goes through on that. And then on the top half of this quadrant, it was Great Okan versus Umino. I think Okan beats Umino again. And then you get Cobb, Khan, and Cobb goes through to the semis for me.
Gotcha. For me, I'm going with that Naito Cobb matchup. And I'm going with Naito beating Cobb to get through to Umino versus Naito. and I'm going to go with Naito beating Umino.
I have Umino beating Naito to advance.
I hate it. I'm gonna be so mad if that happens.
That's what I see happening.
I think. Well, here let's look at some data.
Okay, here we go.
Let's see, Umino. Let's see. What do we want? We want advance to the semis. Is that where we're at right now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Umino advance to the semis. He has the third highest in the of the picks. So 57% of these brackets have him going to the semifinals.
So 57% of the people that are voting are smart.
But yeah, that's third highest behind Shingo, David Finlay, Umino. That's
nice.
That's sad. I'm sorry. It's plausible. It's plausible.
Here's the thing.
We laid out a good laid out a good path to it.
I agree with everything you said about Shota Umino, and we don't need to relitigate Umino. We all know how we feel about him. But there have been those moments where he has gotten us invested. What if the thing that they see in him is still under the surface and they're like digging to pull that out? I mean, they didn't put him in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom for no reason. I think there is a redemption arc, even if we don't want it to be the case.
Sure.
I'm sure management feels like there's something to redeem there.
Without a doubt. And I'll give you that they are invested in him and they sort of need him to work, right? But do they need him to work this quickly, like immediately? That's the question that I have.
Well, I think he's getting lapped.
I think you could heat him back up in a G1 better than you could heat him back up in this tournament, because this tournament it's single elimination. They already gave him a bye. He's not gonna have that much screen time. Like quite literally, like time on the screen. He's not going to have as much as he would have to rebuild his character or rebuild whatever he's got. I am very open to him coming out in a true new gimmick. But if this man shows up as the Roughneck carrying around a Death Rider's jacket in a pink and white pants again, and he's just Umino with bald, sort of, because it's been a month now. He'll have a little bit of hair. That's awful, and he better lose. But if he comes out with
if this man comes out with a veil, and his hands point together, and paint on his body and on his head, and he spits fucking mist, and he breathes fire before he wrestles.
Well, that's the thing. Who hasn't Umino stolen a gimmick from yet? Who's left? Ishii? Put him in some shorts.
If you think about the history of New Japan, I can't think of very many, not just Wrestle Kingdom, but Tokyo Dome main eventers that haven't made some sort of impact to the bottom line and been pushed as a main eventer. I can't think of anybody that has ever failed in that way. We are potentially looking at the precipice. If this doesn't work with Shota Umino, we're in Eric Watts level of failure, but worse. That is on the table. Even though I feel like New Japan's on the precipice of turning the corner in business, we might have made the biggest fucking mistake of since 99. But I don't think they feel that way. I think they see something in them, and I think they're trying to redeem him.
He's getting lapped by Tsuji and Kid and Uemura and Oiwa. So I think this is the last grasp here. They're grasping at straws. They're going to try anything, I think, to get him over and catch him back up to speed with some of those guys. But I think it might take a while.
I was going to say, I just don't think it has to happen here, right? He lost to Great Okan, shaved his head, and then, he flipped the switch, and now he's great and can win matches and has a whole new vibe. He can come out with a whole new vibe, but I still think he should have, there's a reason it's a redemption arc, not just a redemption moment, right? There's got to be some building blocks somewhere along the lines.
Well, Jeremy listed a bunch of really great wrestlers that still have a lot of future in front of them. And when I think about Goto and the fact that he just came along at a time period where there were some of the greatest wrestlers that ever lived in the same like time period as him, the first time he challenged for the IWGP title, 2007. The first time he won the title 18 years later, 2024. So maybe for Shota Umino, we're looking at 2042 for this man to really hit his stride.
Oh man.
When he finally decides he actually wants to be a pro wrestler.
Chris keeps pointing out how it's too early, and I think he's probably right. We're looking at another 18 years.
This is the long game.
Gotta, you know.
Oh man.
His dad will keep pushing him out there to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish all the best in the world for Red Shoes, but another 18 years. So that's a long time.
You could do the hand thing for 18 more years. Be like, oh, Sonata, gotta.
I mean, Tiger Hattori was repping for a long time.
Long time.
He's gonna be like Tiger Hattori.
Yeah. Well, let's jump to the bottom right quadrant here. So we got Tomohiro Ishii versus Drilla Maloney. Drilla coming off of that big win and defeating Shingo Takagi at New Beginning in Osaka. I think this is the start of the Drilla push. I think that he's going to take off another never legend here and beat the Hall of Famer Tomohiro Ishii.
I disagree. I think this is the start of the Shingo push, which is going to be catapulted by Drilla beating Shingo. And if you thought that Shingo made Drilla look really good, wait until you see Ishii make Drilla look like $1 million. He's going to look like an IWGP World Title contender.
Yeah.
But
so you have
winning?
Ishii. Yeah, you have Ishii beating Drilla?
No, I have Ishii making Drilla look like $1 million and doing a JOB so that we can get Shingo beating Drilla in a meaningful way.
Because you made it sound like you were disagreeing with me.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just sounding temperamental, but I'm actually agreeing with you. We're doing 50-50 booking in 2025.
Yeah. It does sort of feel that way.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
But Drilla, yes. It's interesting to me though that they're feeding Drilla like the beefy boys, right? Like Shingo, Ishii. I mean, he would move on to face TJP, and there's some history there, right? Drilla came in, TJP brought him in, Drilla turned, Drilla went to the War Dogs. So this kind of could put a bow on that a little bit.
We're gonna get an Aswang, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'd be stunned if we don't. So yeah, I think Drilla beats Ishii here, moves on to TJP, and it all makes sense.
Yeah. Then we got Boltin Oleg versus Bad Luck Fale.
Boltin Oleg is there to shoot you Old Yeller and put him out to pasture. The only reason they brought in Bad Luck Fale is to get gut wrench superplexed like several times.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking awesome. The over under is 6 minutes.
Yeah, I think Bolton's gonna wreck this guy. Yeah, it's gonna be quick. Kamikaze 1, 2, 3. It's gonna be a great match to get the strength of Bolton over.
How fucking awesome would it be to see Boltin Oleg go on a like a Goldberg run where he just starts running through fucking folks?
It'd be awesome.
2% of the entries of the Sport of Pro Wrestling Bracket Challenge have picked Bad Luck Fale to beat Oleg.
Share their names.
Wow.
I will find them, and I will. There is a person that picked Fale to win the tournament.
Wow.
Nuh-uh.
I'm looking at it.
That's a joke. Fuck.
It's got to be. But it's got to be from the JCast Discord. There are 5 people.
I'll never go there because of that now.
There are 5 people who think Fale gets into the second round, and then the one person who thinks Fale wins another match thinks he wins all his matches. So,
the resurgence of The underboss.
It's, maybe it's one of the Australians. Because,
Maybe,
maybe it's Fale.
Maybe
it might
it's
just
Man
be
Ugg.
it might just be bad luck Fale, yeah.
It might be Tony Kozina.
I could out them right now, but I choose not to.
It's Richard Maluda.
It's Chase. It's actually Chase Owens.
It's Chase Owens.
All right.
Oleg wins that match. It's gonna be awesome though. It'll be fun.
Yeah. And we both got Drilla we all have Drilla versus TJP, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
We're all going with Drilla there.
I go Drilla through, yeah.
I think that's gonna be a sleeper match of the entire
Oh
tournament.
yeah. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
That'll be really good.
Then we got Bolton versus Shingo.
I'm going Shingo, but it would be awesome to see Bolton win, but I think Shingo's winning there.
I also got Shingo.
I think Shingo goes through, and then we get Drilla Shingo here.
That's what I'm counting on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going, like you mentioned, Josh, 50-50. I'm going to have Shingo get that win back from Drilla to advance.
Same.
So Jeremy, what's your final four?
So I have Finlay Saber coming out from the left side, and then I have Naito Shingo coming out of the right side.
Oh.
And I have Finlay Gabe and Shota Shingo, which presents some very interesting finals.
Yeah.
Considering the history between those four guys, you could do some interesting things there.
Yeah, and I've got Yuya, Zack Sabre Jr., and Jeff Cobb Shingo.
That's not happening.
I did it again.
Dude, that Jeff Cobb Shingo, though, that'd
be
great.
sick. Yeah, both of those matches would be great. No, that is unhinged. It's that top right, because I cannot bring myself to put Naito through, and I cannot bring myself to give Shota Umino a win. So I'm left with the scrubs in the top right. And, Jeff Cobb's no scrub, but
it's going to be even funnier in Chris's bracket wins again.
I'll be
when Chris
done.
is 100%
I'll be done. Yeah, like my final four, I'm like, boys, look what I did.
Oh man.
Oh no. How did I get here? I'm sorry, everybody. This is not helpful.
But it's so funny.
But they both be good matches.
Yeah.
That'd be wild booking, but really good matches.
So the way I see it, Shingo. Why are you laughing?
Because it's hilarious. Sorry.
Shingo versus David Finlay as a final makes a ton of sense, just considering the history there, the feud they had last year, the way everything shook out with the New Japan Cup last year. I think that'd be a really great way to go. And then if you want to go the Reiwa generation route, you got Shota Umino and Gabe Kidd right there on the table.
But you've also, in theory, I think realistically, taking my heart out of it, Umino Uemura is actually the most interesting final. I just don't know if it draws.
That would follow the whole youth movement that they're doing.
Yeah, I just don't know if that draws.
That's following, your route. I don't have Uemura factored in at all.
No, right, because you still believe in David Finlay.
Exactly, and that's where the divide is there.
Yeah. Shingo in the brackets. Shingo's the most picked to go to the semifinals. So like Shingo's got what seems like the clearest path to the final four here. Yeah, it goes Shingo, Finlay, Umino, Zach, Gabe, Yuya, Cobb, and those are pretty much that's everyone over 20% to the semis. So Cobb's not that unhinged, I guess. People like him.
For me personally, I don't think Shingo. Okay, so my final four: I got Shota, I got Shingo, I got Gabe, I got David Finlay. Shingo is only going to win this thing if he's there as a defense of the month for Goto. I do not see him as being a guy that could beat Goto. Gabe could only go through if you really are determined to put the rub on him as being the guy that beats the old guard in Goto. And I don't necessarily see them ready to sort of go that direction. So for me, the most realistic, like, two guys that could win this thing are either Shota Umino or hypothetically David Finlay, based on my projections. I honestly think we're getting Shingo versus David Finlay. I think David Finlay's the guy that's going through, and I think he's going to win the world title. The only thing that gives me pause about this entire thing is the storyline that has sprung up between him, Evil, and the War Dogs, and the House of Torture, because that seems like sort of a sideline sort of thing that's off to the side from, dealing with the world title. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm just looking at the guys. Do I really believe that we're going to go with Shota Umino? Do I really believe that they're ready to crown Gabe? Like, I don't see any heir apparent that is ready to take the mantle from Goto other than David Finlay. He's the guy that I see as being the one that's ready, especially considering their history with the New Japan Cup last year and the story that kind of, surrounds that entire thing. I think it makes a lot of sense to have him go into like May and win that belt at Dantaku.
Both
Finlay,
Monday.
you think Finlay wins the title at Dantaku?
I do.
But the winner of this tournament gets the title shot at Ryogoku in April at Sakura Genesis.
Well, then I fucked up. My bad. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
He'll be the April winner.
But that's the thing that I think that's what keeps me away from Finlay winning the tournament, because he can just beat the shit out of Goto after the Dantaku defense and then take the Dominion defense and then win. Because he already has a claim over Goto. They've got enough story there where he doesn't need the tournament, right? And one of these other dudes could win the tournament and fill Ryogoku with another feel-good win for Goto, or finally have Goto take on a young guy and kind of elevate somebody in a loss, and then Finlay comes out and they could do the title defense at Dantaku.
Here's the problem with your logic on that. You don't have David Finlay going into the finals.
No, I don't. But I do think Finlay is one of the more likely. He's probably the most likely winner of this tournament.
Right, but knocking him out as early as you are kind of precludes him from being the guy that challenges next, because usually...
Oh, that's not true. Well, yeah, okay, because usually the loser
challenges in May.
But they haven't done that.
They haven't done that as dogmatically as they have in the past.
They definitely didn't do it last year.
No, but they've done it so many times, you can't discount it.
Yeah. Heard
right,
that.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I would normally would agree, but I feel like Gato has done so many things different from his normal booking patterns the last couple of years. It's kind of hard to go back on that. And I don't know, I feel like for Finlay, so I have Finlay Saber on the left side. I have Finlay beating Saber, and I have Shingo Naito. I have Shingo beating Naito. So my final is also Shingo and Finlay. And my thinking there is, again, this was supposed
Shingo
to be Finlay's.
Wins.
No, I have Finlay winning. I think that this was, last year I think was supposed to be his tournament. So I think this is going to be a make good, and you're elevating him. You have him, for me, I have him beating Zach, the former champion, going to the finals. And then you have Shingo, a former New Japan Cup winner, former champion. There's history between Shingo and Finlay, and having Finlay beat Shingo, I think, is a great guy to beat, to elevate him to challenge Goto at Sakura Genesis.
Okay. But are you bold enough to say right now that you think that David Finlay is going to win the title in April, like I do, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Goto title reign is going to be super long. I think it's more of a gold watch. There's going to be some nostalgia. I don't think that we're getting a super long. I don't think Shibata's going to get his Goto match in August for the title.
That man went into business for himself is what happened there.
Likely. I mean, Shibata also wants Tanahashi at Forbidden Door.
He wants whatever's going to pay the most and provide them with the most, eyeballs. The highest spot on the card.
So I have Yuya Uemura and Zack Sabre Jr. I've got Yuya Uemura winning that match, going to the final.
Wow,
that's
you
bold.
got him winning the fucking tournament.
Yeah, I do. I have them strapping a rocket to Uemura.
So then, do you have Uemura beating Goto?
No. I think Goto wins that match, and I think eventually, the person that takes the belt off, no matter what happens in this tournament, I think the person that takes the belt off of Goto is David Finlay.
You just have it a little bit later than we do.
I just don't think it happens via this tournament or via Sakura Genesis. I truly believe Finlay can just do a beatdown and do a promo that says, you've been in my spot. You've been in the spot I should be in for the whole year, for a year now, and I'm taking my spot back. And then they do a challenge at Dominion or Dontaku, and Finlay wins that. I think when Finlay challenges for the title, he's going to win.
Yeah, Dontaku would make probably more sense with it being, Bullet Club month and Bullet Club day, and Bullet Club things happen at Dontaku. So yeah, it could make a ton of sense for that's when he beats down Goto after Sakura Genesis, and then he fights his Goto at Dontaku.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. But I think they continue to run the trail of the New Japan Cup being the Young Guys tournament. And I think last year was Tsuji, this year Uemura, next year, Oiwa, Narita, whatever, right? Whoever's got the hot hand. I think maybe that becomes a trend, but none of those guys can get over the hump in the G1. Something like that.
Yep, that could play out. So you got Uemura.
And I've got Shingo going through on the other side. So Uemura, Shingo, and Uemura wins as the fiery baby face.
Have they wrestled before?
I don't think so. Not in a meaningful match. Maybe when Yuya was on his sort of way out, he did a bunch of singles matches. Let's do some searching. Let's see. Let's find Shingo.
So for me, I've got the final being Shingo versus David Finlay, which
they did.
Me and Jeremy, it sounds like we've. Oh, my bad.
Sorry, they did Shingo Yuya in the 2024 last year's first round, and Shingo beat Uemura in 23-22, and now I recall that being pretty good. And then they did Shingo Uemura at Resurgence last year for the Never Openweight title, and Shingo won that match in 21 minutes. So Shingo and Uemura have some history here.
Yeah, that's the match where he ate up Uemura.
Yeah.
It
was Dave had it at 4.5. The New Japan Cup match Dave had at 4.5. Cage match has it at 7.36. So
Dave's ratings are so unhinged.
Yeah, Dave-flation's real. Yeah. So that's a 3.5-ish match. But it was the main event of that show. So there's something there. That's not deep lore by any means, but there's some history.